Hey, 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 happy Wednesday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, I'm Jeff McAleer, back once again as your host here at The Daily Dope, presented by thegaminggang.com, of which I am the founder and editor-in-chief. Tonight is Wednesday, June 19th, 2019. This is episode 317 of The Daily Dope. So, it is Wednesday night, so Wednesday means wargaming the vast majority of time around here. And of course, tonight's no different because I will be unboxing and taking a first look at Gandhi, the Decolonization of British India, 1917 to 1947, from GMT Games. This is title number 9 in the COIN series, the counterinsurgency. I almost said counterintelligence. Counterinsurgency series from GMT. So we'll be digging into that in just a bit. Do want to point out this is a live show. I know some folks who tend to watch the wargaming coverage on Wednesdays don't realize this is a live show, and they wonder, why is this so long? Well, the reason why it's so long is because it's a live show. Because it's a live show, there is chat available on YouTube. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of these stranger commenters at bay, but I do pay attention to chat. So if you'd like to say howdy, or maybe you've got a question, or very possibly maybe there's something about Gandhi you want a closer look at, by all means, chime in chat. I will respond. Also, if you like the video, please give it a quick thumbs up. If you check out some of the videos on the Gaming Gang channel and you haven't yet, please subscribe. Don't forget to ring that little bell, because not only will that happen to tell you when there's new videos up. So, for an example, I've been posting a lot of Origins interviews that I've been finishing up, doing the editing and everything. Not only will it tell you when a new video goes up, it'll also tell you when the stream goes live within about 5 minutes or so. And of course, if you like the website, if you like the channel, if you like the show, please tell a friend. In fact, do me a favor, tell 2 friends. So Dan from No Enemies here is already popping in. Good to see you, Dan. You will get your shout out from Herman Lutman a little later on tonight, because I had finished up a lot of interviews today, and I did upload them to YouTube. And of course, there's always something going to be wrong, right? So it turns out I uploaded a bunch of interviews, and most of them, my little outro piece that I had recorded where I say, oh, hey, thanks for checking out my Origins Game Fair coverage or what have you. It's like black. The screen's black. You can hear me talking, but the screen is black. And I'm like, okay, what's going on with this this video rendering software? I use Video Studio. I was like, what the heck's going on? But I should be able to clean those up. Just have to re-upload them again. But I had interviews with Academy Games, Gray Fox Games, Catalyst Game Labs, Japanime Games, Cosmos Games, and an interview with my pal Herman Lutman. So those were all uploaded. And then all but the Academy Games video, for some reason, that little outro piece is just a blank screen. So I don't know what's going on. So hopefully I can just re-download the videos, because of course I deleted the videos off of my solid state drive. That's brilliant, right? Brilliant. Because everything looked fine. I didn't look at the outro. I was like, the outro's fine. No, but I should be able to just re-download them off of YouTube. I got software that'll do that, and then I'll just chop the end off and then splice on the correct outro. Hopefully, it's working correctly, and just re-upload it. So Dan says lots of work. Not so much. It's okay. I don't mind it. I kind of get a kick out of it. I was not doing lower thirds. I do have some B-roll where I have, I'm talking to somebody and then you'll see some of the B-roll I shot of different games and things like that. I didn't do lower thirds because they're such a pain. I mean, if the videos were like super like 4K and just super professional, yeah, I would do the lower thirds. The little scroll kind of that runs across the bottom again this year. But then I thought, for all the work that's involved in doing that, I think I'll take a pass and get these interviews up in a relatively short period of time. Because normally when I do all the lower third stuff, then usually it's about 2 weeks after the convention, I finally post like my final interview. As long as I can get the little outro fixed, I only have 3 interviews left. So I did, altogether, I think I did 19 or 20 interviews, and one was kind of messed up. The audio's terrible, that I did a recording with Yellow Games. And there was a buzz. There must have been something there that was interfering with the mic that I did not know about. So there's this really loud buzz through all of it. So unfortunately, can't use that interview. But all the rest, good stuff, good stuff. And of course, if you watched yesterday, I have a slew of new stuff for us to cover as well. Do have some news tonight. Not a ton of news, just a little bit of news. And I always like to point out, because I know some of the war gamers out there are not fans of the tabletop gaming news of the day. If you're watching live, of course, well, gotta run through it, right? But if you are watching after the fact, then by all means, check out the show notes below. They will tell you when the unboxing of Gandhi begins. You can hop right straight to it. But anyway, let's jump into the news, because Portal Games is releasing a new game, Imperial Settlers Roll and Write. It's coming out tomorrow, and I've got the dope. Imperial Settlers Roll and Write is a standalone game set in the universe of Imperial Settlers and Imperial Settlers Empires of the North. The game is heavily focused on engine building. Constructing buildings grants you a special bonus, and with each passing turn, the game offers you more choices as your empire gains momentum. Gotta love when that happens. Imperial Settlers Roll and Write has 2 game modes. The standard mode is a 2 to 4 player competitive challenge in which you try to gain more points than your opponents. The adventure mode is a single player offering with 48 unique game sheets. Each sheet represents unique challenges and gameplay, as players have different buildings at the start. Tweak your engine and get as many points as you can. Grab your pencil, roll your dice, and create the most prosperous empire. Imperial Settlers Roll and Write is for 1 to 4 players, ages 10 and up. Plays in around 30 minutes. As I mentioned, the game arrives in stores tomorrow and does carry an MSRP of $29.99. Could be interesting. I know a lot of folks are very, they really dig, I guess I should say, Imperial Settlers, that whole game line. Of course, it is a roll and write. I have to be honest, I have not really played roll and write games, and they are just the big rage right now. I know for a fact when I talked to Stephen Bonacore, they released 2 new roll and writes. Stronghold Games did. At Origins, I got 2 more coming at Gen Con. They're all kind of themeless, at least the ones from Stronghold. But I gotta be honest, I haven't really played roll and writes. I mean, I know everybody's like all into them right now, but I don't know, they just don't jump out at me. They don't grab my attention. But then again, it's probably because I haven't played any. My next news piece, Renegade Game Studios revealed earlier today a new Expedition expansion for Clank, a deck-building adventure. And here's the dope. If you have an insatiable thirst for plunder, Clank Expeditions is for you. A series of boards to continue your deck-building adventures. Adventure deep into the jungle where the fabled Temple of the Ape Lords is said to reside. Valuable relics of their lost civilization await you. as does an undying mechanical guardian the ape lords left behind. Even when you find the temple, navigating its mechanized passages may prove trickier than you expect. Enjoy 2 new maps, 4 new meeples, and 1 new Ape Lord boss marker to contend with. You can find this title on your friendly local game store shelves beginning in September, but you'll also be able to pick it up at Gen Con a full month early from both the Renegade Games booth, that's booth 2210, and the Dire Wolf Digital booth, which is booth 2507. The expansion is for 2 to 4 players, ages 12 and up, plays in 30 to 60 minutes, and will carry an MSRP of $20. So if you have not seen these Expeditions expansions, they're not full-fledged box expansions. They're just kind of a flat pack. They've got kind of a like a bubble, plastic bubble wrap almost on top of it. And it includes a new board, new meeples, usually a little rule book, but there usually are no new cards or tokens or anything like that. But hey, for a dual-sided board, $20, new adventure to play, because the board has a lot to do with what goes on in the Clank games. Not too shabby, not too bad. Big news from Osprey Games, because I was very surprised. This was also some news that came out today, and that is Osprey Games is going to release 2 role-playing games this November, and I've got the dope. Osprey Games is delighted to announce the November 2019 launch of Osprey Role-Playing, a new series of beautifully illustrated hardback RPG rulebooks that transport players to incredible worlds and extraordinary adventures. The series debuts with 2 titles: Romance of the Perilous Land, a role-playing game of British folklore created by award-winning designer Scott Malthouse, and Graham Rose's Paleomythic, a role-playing game of stone and sorcery. Romance of the Perilous Land, a role-playing game of British folklore, is created by award-winning designer Scott Malthouse and is a role-playing game of magic and adventure set in the world of British folklore, from the stories of King Arthur to the wonderful regional tales told throughout this green and pleasant land. It's a world of romantic chivalry, but also of great danger, with ambitious kings, evil knights, and thieving brigands terrorizing the land, while greedy giants, malevolent sorcerers, and water-dwelling knucklers, never heard of them, lurk in these shadows. As valiant knights, mighty barbarians, subtle cunning folk, and more, the players are heroes, roaming the land to fight evil, right wrongs, and create their own legends. This will be released in hardcover and it carries an MSRP of $30. No word on page count on either one of these yet. Paleomythic, a role-playing game of stone and sorcery, is written by Graham Rose and sees players face all manner of challenges as they try to survive in the prehistoric land of ancient Mu, taking on the role of hunters, healers, warriors, soothsayers, and more. They'll navigate a world of hostile tribes, otherworldly spirits, prehistoric beasts, and monstrous creatures lurking in the dark places of the world. Players have a huge scope in sculpting the game experience that best suits them, whether it's a gritty survival story without a trace of the mystical, or a tale of grand adventure and exploration in a mythic setting. This hardcover will also carry an MSRP of $30. I have to say, these 2 look pretty interesting. It's Osprey Games, so we know the artwork should be top-notch. They've done really well with Frostgrave and all their different miniatures games that they've come out with as of the past few years. Their game releases have been pretty good too, so gonna be cool. I talked to Pete over at Osprey, so we should get a chance to take a look at these. Of course, they are not going to hit stores until November. We should be able to luck out and get a chance to take a look at both of these. Hubcam 210 is in the house. Good to see you, Hubcam. Good to have you joining me once again tonight. Also, my final news piece, now available in PDF, is the first supplement for Barbarians of Lumeria. And I've got the dope. This is the English translation of the first French supplement to the role-playing game Barbarians of Lemuria Mythic Edition. Lemurian Chronicles gives you additional background information and new ready-to-play adventures to build on the sagas you've started with the Mythic Edition, which you'll also need in order to play. It's fully illustrated in black and white artwork by Emmanuel Roudier. Taking a stab, taking a guess. Here's what you're going to find inside this 136-page book. A foreword by Simon Washburn, designer of Barbarians of Lemuria. This book gives you many hours of great gaming and is a work to treasure. Every fan of BOL should own at least one copy. Why would you need more than one copy? If you've never played BOL before, this work is probably the best reason to start. I have to admit, that artwork is super bizarre. It includes the first detailed description of the Connaught region, its mysteries and its people, with heroic origins, I should say, and beasts only found in these harsh northern climes. The calendar of Satiria, brought to life with local celebrations and adventure seeds. 5 brand new ready-to-play adventures, from the frozen wastes of the Connaught to the Fire Coast by way of the Axos Mountains. Your footloose and penniless heroes will embark on gripping and death-defying adventures that form an epic tale. The 136-page PDF is available right now at DriveThruRPG. It is $16.95. There are also print-on-demand options as well. And this does come from Ludospherik, I believe is the name of the company. They are a French role-playing game company. So Barbarians of Lemuria is not actually from these guys. It's from another company. At the top of my head, I don't recall the name of the company. But I do know Barbarians of Lemuria is a bit old school. It's got a little bit of an old school vibe. It tries to kind of capture more along the lines of kind of the sword and sorcery of Conan the Barbarian, little kind of like lower fantasy. So, and I know a lot of the rules are kind of devoted towards the player characters becoming like rulers, like Conan becomes king, kind of sort of like that as well. So I've heard good things about it. I have not checked it out, but I do know a wee bit about it. So, all right, I am going to get into unboxing and taking a first look at Gandhi in just a few moments. Didn't want to talk about what's coming up on the show this week and next. In fact, Dan had asked me if I'd be interested in maybe sharing what I've got coming up on the Daily Dope for him to share on his show on Saturdays. And I'd be more than happy to do that. And when I know what's going on, I will definitely do that. The reality is, usually I don't know. I don't have it planned out the week before, so I'm just doing that because I came home with all these review copies of things, so. But I will reach out through an email. But I did see that today, Dan, so I just wanted to let you know. And Jorge Rodriguez is in the house. Good to see you, Jorge. Good to have you joining me once again. So on tomorrow's show, you guys voted out there. In fact, I was kind of surprised how many people actually voted in the poll. So it was a toss-up between taking a look at the new starter set, or I should say, I believe it's called the beginner box for the new edition of Shadowrun from Catalyst Game Labs, or it was going to be an unboxing and first look at the Call of Cthulhu starter set from Chaosium. It was very close. It ended up being a 53% to 47%, but Shadowrun came out on top. So we are going to be taking a look at Shadowrun, the beginner box, the Sixth World beginner box, on tomorrow's show, because it's Thursday. Love doing RPGs on Thursdays. So then on Friday, we are going to take a first look. We're going to unbox Sorcerer, which is from White Wizard Games. White Wizard does Hero Realms, they do Star Realms, they do Epic Card Game. This is kind of their first foray really into a big box kind of board game. And I know Herman Letman and I think Fred Manzo, his pal, his developer, he develops a lot of Herman's designs. I want to say that they both sat. No, I'm sorry. Herman and one of his other buddies he was with sat down and tried out. Herman said it was really good. Herman said he really enjoyed it. So I've heard some grumblings that it's not balanced, but who knows? Don't know. So yes, Jorge says Sorcerer looks interesting. It does. It really does. So we will get a close up at that. Then on Monday's show, I am going to unbox. This box is heavy. I'm going to unbox and take a first look at Robotech Attack on the SDF-1 from Japan-made Games. So that's the back of the box. It's not telling us a whole lot. It's not giving us a lot of info on the back there, but like I said, this has a lot of heft. It's supposed to actually have a big stand-up. It's probably like a cardboard standee of the SDF-1 that kind of rotates while these Zentradi try to attack. So that'll be on Monday's show. Tuesday, we're going to take a look at the Origins game release that was from Arcane Wonders, Volcanic Isle. I talked with Tony Galani about this, and it looks pretty interesting. Looks kind of interesting where you're trying to put up your statues, and unfortunately, you're kind of blocking these vents, so all this pressure's building up, and it splits off pieces of the island. So what you're trying to do is actually sit there and try to like break off pieces of the island that belong to your opponents. So yeah, well, it's kind of interesting. Then of course, next Wednesday is another Wargame Wednesday. I'll be taking a first look and unboxing at the Peloponnesian War from Mark Herman. This is like a 1 or 2 player game, I do believe. And this should be interesting. I'm always into ancients. And then a week from tomorrow, we will look at the Call of Cthulhu starter set. So from Chaosium Inc. This is a pretty thin box. This is the thinnest of the starter sets, I must admit. But it's got about as much heft as the Shadowrun does. And I do know, I did find out when I did my interview with Rick Meitz from Chaosium that Alone Against the Flames is the adventure that's in here. So that has been available for a while. So then on Friday, I got this stuff all piled up next to me. I got loads and loads of other stuff we're going to be doing too. So we are going to take a look at Champions of Hera from Greenbrier Games. This is a pretty big box here. It's for 1 to 4 players, and this is kind of a fantasy mashup game. Looks like some pretty cool minis in here as well. So that will be a week from Friday. So Kabuki Kid has popped in. Kabuki asks, have they ever put out Arkham by Gaslight again? Do not believe so. I do not believe so. I don't think I have seen it, to be very honest with you. Hang on, let me... Just moving some of this stuff out of the way here. There we go. No, I have not. Are you talking Arkham by Gaslight or Cthulhu by Gaslight? The one that was the Victorian London source book, because I think they reprinted that. But yeah, it was pretty cool. I remember that was pretty cool. Anyway, so I'm going to get into the unboxing of Gandhi. Oh, wait, what's that? What's that, little bub? Oh, of course. I should point out that if you are a fan of the GamingGang.com, if you like the channel, if you watch the Daily Dope, then you know that this is pretty much a not-for-profit endeavor here. So, if you like it, please consider making a small donation to Lil Bub's Big Fund and the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Yes, Lil Bub's Big Fund does supply grant monies to organizations throughout the United States who care for special needs animals who are awaiting adoption. These animals may require medication. They might be blind. They could be deaf. They may have mobility issues. Maybe they're just a little long in the tooth. Regardless, these animals deserve a good home and want to provide their new owners with plenty of love. And that's what Little Bub's Big Fund happens to do. Do want to also point out 100% of all monies raised by Little Bub's Big Fund is granted out. Very important for you to know. So, of course, if you do make a small donation, shoot me an email. Email's down there, jeffmcaleer@thegaminggang.com. And if you'd like, I will give you a quick shout out on the following show. So, Kabuki Kid says, May have said it wrong, Cthulhu by Gaslight. You know what? I could have swore they reprinted it. I don't think it only came out once. Because if it came out once, that'd have been 20 years ago. So, I don't believe I have seen it for 7th edition. And in fact, I should say I know I haven't seen it for 7th edition because I saw pretty much everything that's out for 7th edition at the Chaosium booth when I was swung over there at Origins. So, and I don't believe that has been released. But yeah, it's pretty cool. It was very cool. All right, so I'm sure most people are tuning in because I want to check out the unboxing of Gandhi, the Decolonization of India, I should say British India, 1917 to 1947 from GMT Games. It's designed by Bruce Mansfield with artwork and graphic design by Newt Grunitz and Roger B. McGowan. The game is for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around 90 minutes to possibly 4 hours. Gandhi is available right now. It does carry an MSRP of $81. This is entry number 9 in the coin series. So we'll switch over to the other camera. Here we go. I'm going to throw on the old reading specs. So the box has some pretty good heft to it. Taking a look on the back, it does look like this does have kind of a smaller board than most of the coin series. Possibly maybe about the size of Cuba Libre. So, a decolonization game. Definitely different theme. It is definitely a different theme. This is historically based as well. So, and of course, it's coin series. So that means that each of the factions will play asymmetrically. All right, we'll just read a little bit on the back here. It says, India, the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. 1917. The British Empire was one of the largest and most powerful empires in history. At the center of the empire was India, one of the world's great classical civilizations. British rule over India seemed absolute, unchallenged since the defeat of the 1857 rebellion. Yet only 3 decades later, the mightiest empire in the world would be humbled, and India would become a free nation. It was not armed conflict that freed India, but Gandhi's radical doctrine of non-violent resistance. Gandhi gave Indians an effective method to disrupt the oppression of colonialism. Non-violence challenged the legitimacy of British rule and proved the futility of repressing a nationwide movement with military force. Gandhi weaves together historical, political, and cultural threads and offers an opportunity to study nonviolent and violent resistance as the age of European imperialism begins to unravel. Gandhi adopts the same card-assisted system of earlier coin volumes to the unique features of nonviolent resistance. Solitaire players can test their skill against an innovative new system with short and long scenarios to fit any playtime. Gandhi is a thorough exploration of the nonviolence movement in India. Okay, so it is complexity 5 on a scale of 1 to 9. I don't know. We'll take a peek. We're going to take a peek. Solitaire suitability is 9 out of 9 because, as we know, the coin series will normally, as far as I've always seen, every one of them is going to have different charts for AI bots, basically to play various different factions. One of the cool things, too, because it is for 1 to 4 players, you could have it where you've got 2 human players and 2 AI bots. So, same thing if you got 3 players, you could have a 4th AI bot taking that fourth faction. So, very cool. Always like that about it. I do want to point out that the coin series can be fairly complex for some folks, and they do vary in complexity. So I always point out that, in my opinion, I think that the easiest coin game to get into, now we haven't looked at inside here yet, is Cuba Libre. It plays in a shorter amount of time. There's a lot less real estate that we're dealing with in Cuba Libre as well. I kind of dig the fact that one of the factions is actually the mob down in Cuba. So, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Jorge says, I love the sound of plastic wrapping being torn. Yeah, just like a lot of kids really love the sound of like paper being torn because it reminds them of opening presents during the holidays or on their birthdays. All right, so we've got a rules of playbook. Clocking in at 48 pages. Then we got the playbook. Always love the GMT playbooks. I'll be very honest. The topic of discussion at Origins with some folks this year was how it seems that we are seeing some issues with presentation as far as GMT games. And I've talked about this before, that for the most part, designers for GMT they're not assigned, I zoomed in too much, sorry. They're not assigned a developer to work with. They have to go find their own developers. They have to find their own playtesters. Because GMT certainly does not have the finances to provide playtesters and developers for every single title that's on a P500, right? So we have been seeing some mistakes, a bit of sloppiness kind of slipping through. This being the coin series, and knowing that Volko Runke probably oversees the coin series, even though he's not the designer of this, I think we should be in pretty good shape. All right, so we're going to look, we got the introduction here. So, talking about the general course of play. Talking about the map itself. Players and factions. So, we're going to see what the factions are. So, we've got the Raj, Congress and the Muslim League, Revolutionaries, and non-player factions? I don't know. We'll have to take a look. Okay, so we got the Raj going through their resources, sequence of play, your operations. One of the things I always think is very cool with the Coin Series 2 is that the factions always play differently. You will have different actions available to you depending on who your faction is. So always like that. I always think that's pretty cool. So we've got some examples here. So we've got demonstrations. What was the first thing that we had here? Oh, no, I guess this is the first. Demonstrations, civil disobedience, non-cooperation, revolutionaries operations. So rally, march, attack, unrest, special activities. So as you can see, there's loads and loads of illustrations, examples so far for us too. Raj, Dwayne, and Rerun. No, sorry, Kabuki Kid. That's not what's happening. Sorry. Okay, so we've got, who do we have here? The Muslim League. So they can negotiate. The Muslim League is also, I believe, non-violent. They can infiltrate, they can persuade. The revolutionaries can aid, infiltrate, and assassinate, so they are violent. So then we've got the events. We've got campaign rounds. Of course, this is card-driven. This is card-driven quite a bit differently. So Hubcam is laughing. Hey, I remember that series. Yes, and when they brought it back like years later, and it was like, what's happening now? Yeah, it was actually it was a fairly funny show. It wasn't on that long. In fact, I think when they like rebooted it years later, I think that actually ran longer than the original What's Happening. Hey, 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 hey. Oh my gosh, there goes Kabuki Kid types that just as I said that. Jeez, that's kind of funny. All right, so some of the wargamers out there are going to be like, dude, man, we're supposed to be looking at the rule book here. You're joking around about what's happening. As I point out, this is a live show. It's a live stream. Got chat. Folks are hanging out in chat. All right, so talking about victory, ranking, final campaign. All right, what was this we just saw? Oh, non-player. So we got non-player overview. So non-player Congress. Okay. So no doubt there's probably an AI for us to work with this as well. But there are a lot of rules. I will point out quite a lot of rules here that we can see. A lot actually devoted to the non-players. Which, of course, well, I guess realistically, you got the bots and that. I guess realistically, most people can't usually just grab 4 people to sit down and play what could be a 4 or 5 hour game. So, yeah. So I guess I can understand why so many pages are basically devoted to the bots. I know it's saying non-player factions, but it's basically the bots. All right, so we've got a copy of the map, or the board, I should say. 4 different scenarios. So we've got a short scenario, 1930 to 1947. Then we've got the main scenario, 1917 to 1947. So there are, I guess, two scenarios. Then we got some key terms. And we got a quick start guide for multiple players. Of course, like any of the coin series, you're going to be able to jump on in solitaire with all the different charts. So Kabuki Kid's saying, blame me. If anybody gets mad because we're not talking about the actual game, we were talking about what's happening. Said, blame Kabuki Kid. So we've got the rules of play. Let's take a look at the playbook. One thing I always love about GMT games are the playbooks, when they do include playbooks, and they usually have playbooks. Yes, so Dan says that he's heading out. Gotta go, she's screaming. I wonder who he's talking about screaming. Is it, does he have like a small child? Is it his wife? Get out of there! Quit watching that crap! Alright, thanks for popping in, Dan. Probably see you tomorrow. Anyway, so Jorge says, I don't blame you. I like this. So do I. I like kind of, chatting a little bit. It's just how things work. I'm actually really surprised we haven't seen Rob Moffat pop in. It's a War Game Wednesday. I don't know. Okay, so, so we got a tutorial to start off with. So we've got, that's cool. I like that. Event operations and special activities. So we're getting kind of a walkthrough here. Oh, nice. I gotta be honest. I don't usually see tutorials like this because it says like, oh, okay, so you're reading this and it says, okay, go to the rule book and check out section 1.3. It's going to teach you about the map. So these little highlighted areas are basically telling you where you should go to check it out, to check out the rules. So that's pretty cool. I'm not used to normally seeing that in the playbooks. The playbooks don't usually have like bolding where it's indicating, oh, okay, go back to the rule book, check this out. So that's pretty cool. So we're showing us the sequence of play. That's a pretty long tutorial. So very cool. They're kind of stealing a page from PC games. Oh, I should just say digital games. And we're still looking at... so we've got a little bit of a sequence, too, where it's showing us the card play that's going on. All right. Now we get examples of play for the non-players. So... we got the non-player Raj. We've got the non-player Congress. We got the non-player Muslim League. And then we should have the non-player Revolutionaries. Did I somehow missed that? Maybe I did. So, talking about faction interactions, guide to factions operations. How do I get where I want to go? For the Raj player, for the non-violent factions, for the Congress player, for the Muslim League player. Then we've got something that I always like, where it talks about the events. Pretty cool, where it talks about the historic background of the event cards. Always dig that. I've been a fan of that since I originally picked up Twilight Struggle way back in the day. Always dig learning more about the history. I'll be very honest. I mean, of course I know a little bit about the colonization of India, obviously enough, but I'm not over, outside of maybe seeing the movie from wasn't it Sir Richard Attenborough, Gandhi, with Ben Kingsley. Outside of that, and it's been so long since I watched this, I'm not real super familiar with what happened. Hey, Unscripted and Unchained RPG review has arrived. How's it going, W? Good to see you. Then we got some designer notes, we got developer notes, we got historical notes. The myths of nonviolence. Wow, that sounds cool. Excellent. That's very cool. So yeah, like I said, the playbooks are always really, really good the vast majority of time from GMT Games. And I really like that tutorial because, as I always like to point out, whenever I'm busting out a GMT game and it's got a playbook, I'll usually read the playbook before I start reading the rule book. So Kabuki Kid says Gandhi was the last movie they saw in theaters that had an intermission. I have to admit, I went and saw Lawrence of Arabia, not when it first came out, obviously enough, but I saw it in the 80s, and that had an intermission. And then I remember when they did the remaster of Gone with the Wind, and that was out in theaters. I went and saw that. That had an intermission, and I think that was the last movie I saw that had an intermission. So. I want to say, as weird as this may sound, and you know, it really doesn't have much to do with what we're looking at here, but didn't The Man Who Would Be King have an intermission? So you says Titanic had an intermission. Not when I saw it. I did not see an intermission in the theater when I saw it. That's a possibility. I know there was an intermission with the, like, if you had the VHS box set. So, but yeah, I don't, there was no intermission when I saw it. It was just all 17 hours of film. So I gotta admit, I love Titanic. I know a lot of people over the years have been like, oh yeah, I hate Titanic. I personally thought when I walked out of there, I knew what it was like to have been on the Titanic. So, all right, let's zoom in. We're going to take a look at some of the counters. There aren't a lot of counters. The coin series does not use tons and tons of counters. These counters are usually just informational. So you've got some control markers. So we got the Raj control there. We've got different support, overflow down here. We've got active opposition, protests. We've got unrest. So we've got a few, looks like some, not necessarily special, but it looks like some of these like restraint, unity, they may be tracks on the board. And of course, these are double-sided. So, got passive support, passive opposition, striking. We're gonna strike. So that is the counter sheet. Next, we've got some charts, which I'm going to zoom back out so we can see the charts better. So we have The British Raj, well, we're going to have 4 copies of these. So basically, we're going to have each player has a copy of this play aid, and it's going to have the operations that each of the factions can perform. Now, some of them can perform the same actions, but for the most part, you're going to have just special things that your faction can do that the other factions cannot. So, of course, the British Raj can deploy troops, whereas the revolutionaries cannot, obviously enough. So we got the British Raj, we got the Indian National Congress, we've got the Muslim League, and then we have the revolutionaries. So it'll tell us each of the operations. So I'll just read through real quick, just as an example, the British. So they can deploy, they can garrison, they can sweep. So they're looking to try to get guerrillas, things like that. They can assault, treaty, govern, they can declare martial law. And then it tells you, okay, so how can the British Raj get victory? So that's something else that's a little bit different in the coin series of games. Everybody's not looking to get a set number of victory points or something like that. The victory conditions for each faction is usually also asymmetrical. So we've got the non-player aid card, which looks very different. We're used to seeing flowcharts for the NP bots, but now here we are not seeing a flowchart. That's pretty interesting. Then we've got move priorities. So, well, I'll tell you what. I mean, in my honest opinion, it's just my opinion, but a lot of times with the coin series, when I see these big flow charts where it's like, oh, okay, well, you know, is it this? No, then go, blah, blah, blah. I'm kind of like, up. I have to admit, the only times I play a coin game is when I have everybody there to play, that we're not using a non-player chart or anything like that. So interesting. I'm going to have to dig into this because that looks very, very cool and probably a little bit easier to wrap my head around. So we've got that. And then we've got a sequence of play. So this is kind of talking about the event card, campaign card, the campaign round for non-player instructions as well. So we've got that. So then we're going to have the board. I'll move these off to the side here because I know this board is going to take up space, but I don't think, like I said, I don't think it's going to be, well, actually it is. It is going to be pretty large. So I'll just move these off screen as well. I will take the board out, try to see how much of this I can unfold, because a lot of times these bigger coin boards I can't fit on the table here to show the whole thing off. So I might have to show like half of it, but it does have a kind of unique look too, which I'm digging. I am definitely digging. So let's see. Okay, so it's pretty long. So if I unfold it sideways, we can probably get a lot of this into the shot. So I'm going to pop back out. I'm going to zoom out, just kind of give you an idea of the size of this board. There we go. That is pretty much the size of the board. So lots of room, lots of space in these areas too for your control tokens and your cubes and your cylinders and things like that. So let's see. Let's try to show it off a little bit like this. Zoom back in a little bit. Okay, so we've got looks like a victory point track that runs around along the top. Might not necessarily be victory points, but we are tracking something up there. We've got available forces for the Muslim League with available bases that they can build. Looks like the State of India unity, restraint, available protests. out of play. I'm going to take a guess that these are probably cubes that are out of play. Oh, sorry. I thought Kabuki Kid was saying goodbye to W. He is not, or he or she, I should say, is not. They were like saying hello. Anyway, we've got Indian National Congress, available forces up here. We're gonna have our draw deck, the current card. Then we've got the area of India. So we've got the border with Afghanistan, Tibet, Nepal. USSR's up there. Of course, the USSR. Well, yeah, I guess it was 1917 when we start. It's kind of in play. So we've got Delhi. So some of the larger cities have these circular areas here. So they're like Bombay, Calcutta. This map is really cool. I'm really digging this map. This board, I guess I should say. Okay, so we've got that. So I can just slide this off a little bit. We can kind of get the bottom in too. So we got Madras, the various different areas. So then we've got jail, so we can have leaders jailed. The available forces for the British Raj, British Viceroy. Here's the sequence of play. That's kind of cool. Sequence of play is right there on the board for us. We've got a legend. That's nice. Nicely done. Very cool legend down here. It's Legends of the Fall. That's another long movie. I like that movie, though. I gotta admit. I like Legends of the Fall. I'm also a fan of the one with A River Runs Through It. I like that one, too. It's a pretty cool movie. All right, and then we got the Revolutionaries available forces as well. But yes, I am definitely digging the board for this. And I gotta say, like I said, I think this might be a little easier to wrap your head around than some of the other coin series games. And our area of play is not as large. It's this. This is basically the area of play. Pendragon, as an example, was much bigger. Had a much bigger play area. So let's fold this back up, as I've got part of the board actually hanging off the table there. Thankfully, it did not tear apart. So we've got cylinders. We've got some dice. Oh, look at that. We got colors of the factions. That's cool. We've got a couple of decks of cards. And then we've got the GMT baggies. So I'm going to zoom back in a little bit because I'm just going to show off the cubes and stuff. And this is what threw some people off when the coin games first came out, where they'd see these cubes, they'd see these cylinders, and they're like, what is this some sort of a Euro game? No, it's not a Euro game by any stretch. So we do have little pawn tokens here in white. So we've got all of these. So I gotta be honest, I think compared to some other coin games, this is a smaller number of pieces as well. So this is looking very promising as an easier level coin game, which to me is very cool. So we've got that. Then we got the 6-sided dice that are in the faction color. That's kind of nice. I like that. You don't see too many orange 6-sided dice floating around. So there we go. We got that. Then we got these 2 decks of cards. So I am going to, let me grab a sip real quick. And yes, Kabuki Kid's like, Legends of the Fall was good. It was. It was kind of funny because Legends of the Fall and A River Runs Through It are kind of, they're not the same kind of movie, but they sort of take place kind of in like the same area, like Montana. I know A River Runs Through It takes place almost positive because they talk about Helena all the time. Okay, so we've got this deck here. Let me open up this other deck because I believe we've got a continuation of this deck with some of these cards. I'll kind of explain how most of the coin series usually work. So, now it's not always the case, but okay. So this is the event deck. These cards look kind of interesting. I wonder. I wouldn't be surprised if these cards are actually used for the non-player factions. That is very, very possible. Because I do notice they're lettered. So we've got A, B, double A, double B. We got C, double C, D, double D, E, double E. All right, so it looks like got all various letters here. So we got A through Z of these. And it's kind of, so this is our flow chart basically. That's what this is. Rather than having a big, massive flow chart that you're paging through, it looks like this is our flow charts here. Where it'll say, okay, well, if XYZ is going on, then look at M, right, or double M. Huh. Interesting. Okay, so usually with the coin series, what'll happen is you'll have a couple cards. It's not a great example. Take these out. We've got campaigns. See how all the rest events. Yep. Okay. So normally what'll happen is you're going to have a couple of cards like so, right, in your deck. So you're going to see. This is obviously these will be shuffled up, so we're not going to see kind of like the same exact sequence. So up top, it's going to show you the sequence of actions for the factions. So I believe, I'm not positive, but I believe that's the revolutionaries, that is the Muslims, that is the Congress, and that's a British Raj. So each turn, two of the factions get to take an action. And it's in this sequence. So you don't have to take an action, even if you're like first up, because what'll happen is if you use your action this turn, the next turn you won't have one. So it's kind of interesting how that plays out. And then of course we've got the event, and then down here in gray, so it says Lala Lapat Rai killed during protest. It says local police clear crowds with Lathi charge. Remove one guerrilla, one activist, one protest marker, or one unrest marker from each of up to 2 spaces with cubes. And then it says murder of Sikh independence leader. In spaces with underground guerrillas, remove 3 pieces total, or replace 2 with guerrillas or activists. Max 1 base, not Gandhi. So usually what'll happen is you're going to have an option of playing the event, and a lot of times the event isn't going to help you. So rather than you playing the event, then you actually have the ability to perform one of your actions that's available to you. Within, some will have prerequisites and things like that too. But that's one of the interesting things that I like about the coin series is that the sequence is always going to be different. So for an example, this is the active card. This is the card that's coming up. So you're going to know what's on the horizon, right? So then let's say this event, somebody played this event, then this card for the next turn goes to here, and then we flip up. So you always know what's going on. So let's get a little further into this deck so it kind of looks like, what is it? The revolutionaries always go first? There we go. Okay, so we've got the British Raj actually going first. So that is one of the interesting aspects of the coin series of games that, to my knowledge, they all pretty much share. Now, as far as the actual gameplay, the game mechanics, they're similar, but there's always something a little bit new. Like, for an example, I have not seen this before. I haven't seen this deck. I have not seen the non-player factions represented by a deck of cards which I believe that is what we're seeing here. So that's something new. Then it shows we got some campaign cards here. Lord Chelmsford, Lord Reading, Lord Irwin, Lord Willingdon, Lord Lithgow, Lord Wavell, and Lord Mountbatten. So, and of course, it looks like these are in a sequential date order. So, if you're playing the full campaign, I would take a guess that as you progress, you're going to go through each of these. So, don't know. Not positive, but if you're playing as the British Raj, I would take a guess that's probably the case. Okay, so let's zoom back out. So those are the cards. So we've got effectively they're 2 decks of cards. We've got a cool insert to the box. That is pretty cool. I'm going to double check. I don't think there's anything underneath here. Nope. But there have been occasions where these were underneath. So we've got all the tokens. We've got the dice for each of the factions. We've got the 2 decks of cards, one being the much larger event deck. We've got the baggies, which those are a lot of baggies for not a whole lot of counters. So we've got the 4 player aids, which each of the factions. So we've got there. We also have a sequence of play and the campaign round for the non-players, the instructions there. We also have the non-player aid card. Now, as we took a look and we saw those cards, taking a look here, I'm not seeing anything that gives like a letter. I see here A, B, C, but I don't see anything further than that. I don't know. I'll have to take a look at the rules, obviously. Then we've got the counter sheet. We have the really cool board. I really dig the board. We've got the playbook, which is jam-packed with info in this one, so that is very, very cool. Hey, lead magnets popping in just as the show's gonna wrap. So we got the playbook, and then we got the rules of play, and that is what we find when we take everything from Gandhi, the Decolonization of British India, 1917 to 1947, outside the box. As I pointed out, this is from GMT. The game is for 1 to 4 players, and it is available right now. Carries an MSRP of $81. Do want to mention, as with just about anything from GMT, especially the coin series, and something that's really different. I can tell you right now, looking at Gandhi, this is going to be very, very different than any other coin game that has come before. So I do want to point out, the GMT titles do sell out very, very quickly. So they're not huge print runs. So if you have interest in picking up Gandhi, do it now. Do not wait. Just put my cover on my little hobby knife here so I don't end up stabbing myself at some point later on. Anyway, by all means, do not procrastinate. If you are interested in checking out Gandhi, by all means, pick it up sooner rather than later. All right, so that is it for tonight's show. As I mentioned, there we go. Here it is. On tomorrow's show, remember I showed this off? It's actually upside down. The box cover should be turned around. Tomorrow's show, it's Thursday, so I like checking out role-playing games and reviewing role-playing games on Thursdays. So we are going to take a first look and unbox the Shadowrun 6th World Beginner Box from Catalyst Game Labs. All right, as I mentioned, check the channel tonight or tomorrow, because I've got a bunch of interviews that I had uploaded, and the outro was messed up on it, so I am going to re-upload those. But I got a bunch of interviews that you may want to check out. Academy Games, Japanime Games, Catalyst Game Labs, Herman Luttman, my good buddy, the designer Herman Luttman. There are a few. There's like 7 interviews, so definitely check them out. All right. So, as I like to point out, And when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, please visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. By now, you know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. Once again, everybody in chat, thank you very much for hanging out, keeping me company, and going off topic, which I like. I mean, that doesn't bother me, but I could understand some people might, be a little irritated by that, especially if they're not watching the chat. I think that would be it. If they're watching on a phone, on a tablet, or on their TV, and they don't see the chat going, yeah, maybe that'd be like, where are they going with this? So anyway, as I mentioned, I will be back tomorrow. So enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. And regardless if you watched live or if you're watching after the fact, thank you very much for watching. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.